Namaste. Welcome. So glad that you are here today for our Monday midday meditation. It's our chance every week to get together and break the cycle of stress, to break the momentum of our day, and to do a little reboot, reset, relax, restore. Really just an opportunity to make this time your own. Because very likely up until this point, especially on a Monday, as our week gets started, as we start to do all of the things, get into gear, hit the ground running, all of these things start to build a momentum that can then cascade into the rest of your week. And that cascade into the rest of your week, you can make a choice whether that is going headlong, headstrong into the busy and just go, go, go until you're done. Or you can move forward. You can move with the connection, with the attention, with the discernment, with the intuition, with your inner guide, your inner fortitude, your steadfastness being the lead. So that is why every Monday we do this video together. We get together and we find time, make time to connect. And we call that our Monday midday meditation. So as always, to get started, it's important that we create a nice framework or foundation for this breaking the momentum to happen. And we do that by just allowing the body and the breath and the mind and the emotions to kind of come back together, to realign, to reintegrate, if you will. And so I always start by asking you to really come in to your comfortable seat, your grounded seat, right? So you can wedge around in your chair a little bit, find the little places where you could create just a little bit more comfort, a little bit more support for yourself. And then as you're ready, if you haven't already, close your eyes. And we just start by taking a few mindful breaths. A big inhale through the nose, a long, slow exhale through the mouth. And you can do that a few times on your own, really kind of feeling the movement of the breath, feeling the connection of the breath. And with each breath, with each release through that nice slow exhale, you can release a little bit more into the comfort of your seat, into that which is supporting you. You can release just that little bit more effort that you may be holding, coming within. And we're creating here, through this tuning within or turning within, this ideal situation to introduce an idea, a concept, a suggestion. We're creating this environment whereby we are receptive. We are without the distractions of many of our senses and the flurry of activity around us. And so it's a perfect time to add today's contemplation. And as always, I want you to continue to kind of cultivate this relaxed state within yourself and your being. The purpose of the contemplation is not to stir things up, is not to create more thinking in the mind, because honestly, the mind is busy thinking enough on its own. It doesn't need our help or my help. But as I talk, as I share, there may be bits and pieces that stick with you, that may serve as you then conduct the rest of your day, the rest of your week. And as always, if something kind of stirs or something kind of resonates, you can come back to this video again and again with more kind of deliberate note-taking action or thinking action as you need. But that's not the point of our first pass of this together. And so as you settle and as I share, what's top of mind for me today is a conversation that has been coming up when I'm talking to friends and former co-workers, colleagues, and certainly my clients. And it's happened enough times recently that I know that this is coming up kind of generally in our collective. And the conversation begins with this sentiment or this idea that we, as a society, within our society, organizations around us are structured in a way that requires us all to be kind of doing. There's always this doing action, always this doing required, always something needing to be done. And to not do it or to do less is somehow this reflection on our ability, our capability, our worth, our interest, our seriousness, our contribution, the quality of our performance. And there's lots of other words I can insert here, but I think you get the idea. And this idea is that more is better. Quantity and busyness is important. This is how we make an impact. It's how we show our value and our contribution. This is how we ensure that we have or create enough experiences for us, for our families even. It's how we're rewarded. It's how we're seen as valued in our culture or valuable by our culture. It's how we earn. It's how we live. So the conversation I've been having is that, yes, we all seem to agree that there is this kind of never-ending cycle of busyness and doing, and that creates stress. And if you've been around for a while, you'll know that, I talk about stress and the accumulation of stress and how it accumulates and the impact of that. But we can all kind of agree on the long-term consequences in things like our health, our happiness, productivity, and effectiveness. That is all well researched, well documented kind of knowledge. But we're caught in it, right? We're stuck in it, and we can't seem to get off of the hamster wheel, and it seems inevitable. And, to many I speak to, it kind of feels hopeless. And, how does this all make sense, right? If we know, and it's well documented, that this is a problem, but this is how kind of our culture, our society, our organizations work. Like, what is the answer? And for some, instinctively, the answer is, well, to get off the hamster wheel, to not participate, right? You'll hear lots of things about setting better boundaries, right? There may be a wish or desire that you have to quit your job and go live in a cave. And I think it's actually quite natural to think in terms of extreme opposites when we're faced with a something or a situation that we don't like or we don't want to be in. The job sucks the life out of us, so we daydream about quitting it all. The busyness of our schedule seems to be never-ending, always something needing to be done, and always with big urgency. So we daydream about getting away from it all. We wish things were different in the absence of the boss, the organization, or the situation, or the person changing. Right? The only escape seems to be an actual escape. And, there's lots of ways that we find escapes, right? You can think about, the get away from it all vacations. We escape as we binge watch Netflix, or, there's a use of recreational or medicinal drugs to create that change, that escape, if you will. And all of the epidemic around all of that, because it's how most of us are living. So in this very kind of philosophical conversation I've been having with people lately, the question comes up, well, what can we do? And I'm going to share with you my answer. And it's my answer because it's proven to work for me, but it's also something that I have coached countless people on over the years, whether I was in this formal entrepreneurial kind of coaching role, but even thinking back, this is what I would, counsel my colleagues or my employees, my team members on when I was working in corporate. The way that we stop kind of the insanity of the cycle of busyness is to break the momentum of it, like we do here. But instead of doing all of the things, right, we need to do one thing at a time. And that one thing needs to support, the thread of it all needs to support your well-being and your inner work. And otherwise, right, when in the absence of that, you are foregoing or compromising on the calm, clarity, ease, and joy, quite honestly, in your life. Now, I know that you know that your inner work and well-being is important, but I'm going to go as far as to say it is the most important work that any of us can do. It's actually the whole reason any of us are here. We were not put on this earth to work our corporate job. We were not put on this earth to work hard, retire, end our life, and then go through that kind of cycle of life, seeing the end of our life after all of that toil and busyness and stress. Our inner work is the most important work. The inner work is where we cultivate peace and calm. And it's actually, and I want you to really listen here when you go back to the recording, this is actually the place where we grow, we expand, we increase our capabilities, our impact, and by virtue of all of that, our contribution. It starts with the inner work. But in most cases, we've got it backwards. And when we do it right, everyone benefits from everybody doing their own inner work. And so the way that you break the cycle of stress, busy, constant overwork, and overwhelm is to start with your inner work first. Now, the way to not break the cycle of stress, busy, constant overwork, and overwhelm is to wait for your job to change or the organization to implement a better work-life mandate or wellness program. It's not by the annoying or waiting for the annoying coworker or the boss to change. It's not even waiting for your kids to get older or your spouse to just do what they're supposed to do. Because quite honestly, all of those changes that you're waiting for, they are never going to happen. And I'm going to say it again. The changes that you're wishing and dreaming about are not going to happen. because there is absolutely no reason for them to change. Now I'm going to break that down for you and talk about a little bit about why that is and why I am so passionately or speaking so passionately about that today. Because in our current environment, the environment that we are all kind of operating in, with everybody acting as they do, right, in that state of busyness, do more that I started off our talk today with. Our lives, our cultures, our organizations are simply a reflection of the outcome of what everybody's doing. Culture doesn't begin because somebody decided that that's how everything was going to be done from now on, or how everybody was going to be from now on. I don't always share these parts of my background with you here, but in the research of organizational development, leadership, and corporate culture, which I invested a ton of time in and wrote my thesis on while I was completing my MBA, you're going to see stated, what you're going to see stated rather, in an organization culture is going to be different than perhaps what you feel in an organization's culture. Just because it's written there in the culture, in the mission statement, it doesn't mean that that is how things really are, how it feels to be there. Corporate culture, and by extension, even the culture of our society, is what actually happens. There's an old adage, right? Culture is what happens when nobody else is looking, or when no one's looking. It's how the employees do, act, behave, work, communicate. Those are the things that are the actual backbone of corporate culture. And like I said, by extension, we can expand that concept to include our neighborhoods, cities, countries, society in general. What you see and participate in is only a reflection of the collective way of doing things. So, as such, if you are dreaming of things to be different, your only step, the only step, is for you to be different. One step at a time, we do our inner work. You do the things that cultivate calm, clarity, and ease in your life. It's not about setting boundaries, because boundaries are actually just a stance in the battle with the norm, expectation, or culture. This is about your one act of change. That might be, meditate. Come to the Monday midday meditation. Find time in the day to watch the recording. Walk in nature. Close your eyes and breathe. The pause meditation. Right? You can research and spend mental activity with great thinkers. Take your lunch break. Mindfully prepare and eat your food. Laugh with your children. Go to bed on time. Have a strong morning routine. Move your body. Spend time writing or journaling. Right? These are not acts of indulgence or luxury. These are acts of change. Acts of activism, if you will. And the one thing you can do, this is how we make the change. One drip, one ripple, one act of inner work, self-care, call it what you will, at a time. And I am so thrilled that you have chosen to join me here today, whether you are here live or watching the recording. Because everything that I've said, everything that I've talked about, I know that you know because you're here. And this is how we build and join together in this community of change, where we are breaking the stress cycle, the cycle of busy, the cycle of overwork and overwhelm, and together building a life of calm, clarity, ease, and joy. And so with that, my friends, I'm going to leave you today. Thank you for joining our Monday midday meditation, and linger here in your comfortable seat with your eyes closed for as long as you can today. This might be your one act. And I'm grateful that you are here. And until next time, namaste.